Yesterday, we talked about an idea from one of the 11 questions by Timothy Ferriss and what he used for getting people to submit their stories, submit their lessons in Tribe of Mentors. I was applying that to our own lives, and we don't have to write a book to answer those questions. I think those questions are a usable source, and it dealt with what's the book that you give? What's the book you give most often? Or what are the 1 to 3 books that have impacted your life in a positive way? I thought I'd look at another question today, and as I was thinking about them, I was saying, okay, what one can I do? And I thought about this number 3. So number 3 is how has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours? So how has a failure or apparent failure set you up for success, for later success? How has it? Can you name one? What have you learned from it? That's the more important thing. Yes, we're all going to have failures, and those that don't take orders from someone who does, as John Maxwell talks about in his Failing Forward book. It was actually the number 1 book quoted to him by people standing in line saying, hey, this is a great book. This has changed my life. And he's going, well, what about my 21 irrefutable laws? So welcome. Congratulations for checking in, taking this moment to think into this question. What is your failure or apparent failure? What do you do with an F? When you get an F on a paper at school, what did you do? Did you learn anything? Or did you just chalk it off and say, oh, the teacher's stupid, or, I hated that class anyways, How did you go beyond it? What did you do? So when we think about lessons that we learn, I got tape stuck on me. Do we write them down? Do we categorize them? Do we save them for later? Probably not. We don't want to. We want to get them out of our mind. We really don't want to dwell on them. And yet the success people of success, people that have had great success, write down their problems. Write down, hey, this attempt didn't work. This is not what we're doing the right way. Or, hey, we're going to try this thing to see if we can get through to our solution. What is it? And as I was looking at some thoughts back from Failing Forward, I like this idea when we're talking about achievers, about, I'm an achiever, you're an achiever, what are you doing? Okay, so achievers are given multiple reasons to believe they're failures. And how many times have you felt that somebody just like waylaid on you, just said, you're a failure, you don't know what you're doing, you don't care, you're not bringing solutions, you're not doing this, you're not. And yet, but in spite of that, they persevere. So are you persevering through your failure? Even though you've failed multiple times. And I like this idea of the average for entrepreneurs. I don't like it, that we fail, but the fact is that there's 3.8 failures before entrepreneurs finally make it in business. So what is it that we're so afraid of with an F on our paper? We didn't do something right, okay, but are we tied to the right, or are we tied to the journey? Are we tied to something that is greater? Or are we tied to something that is part of learning, of being able to say, okay, this is how I had success. If we look back at riding a bicycle, what was it that helped you get through that? Well, you might have watched somebody else ride a bicycle before you so that you could see what they do, and then you mimic that. You may say, well, I've got to try it and I'm going to fall, but if I have somebody alongside me, like somebody holding the seat behind me to keep me steady as I got going, then boom, okay, I'm going to have success because I'm not putting that fear in my mind. Hi, Jenny, welcome. Glad you could join. What is it that we do? What is the things that we're so afraid of, and yet we just glance over the lesson that later on in life we're going to say, I'm a failure. I don't know how to get past this. I'm stuck. Well, what did you do in your past to have success? Even if it wasn't a failure, how did you learn? And apply that learning to what you're doing right now to get moving forward. So many times, if I looked at how many times leadership consulting has essence failed, it would be probably a lot more than 3.8, but we're making progress and we're making, steps forward. And each time, something doesn't quite go right. So you chalk it off as a failure, but maybe it's just a lesson that you need to learn to improve for the next time. So what are you doing? What are you writing down your failures? Are you learning from them? Go back, write them down now. What you remember about them? Or take a success. What did you learn? How did you approach it? Use that model then to go forward and continue to be an achiever, because achievers take their lessons and persevere because they know they're going to get through it. It may not be the same exact way that they're going to get through it, but they're going to get through it in another way. So what do you do with an F? And how can you help somebody in your family, a friend, coworker, get through their problem, get through their idea of a failure? Yesterday, Sam's Club closed up a number of stores, and they're closing up 63 stores. People didn't find out, employees didn't find out until they got to the door of the building and it was locked, and a sign said, "We are now closed." Well, they're going to be mad at Sam's and Walmart for one thing, but they're also going to be a little bit down on themselves, like they didn't see that coming. They didn't prepare for the closing of the store. They're failing. I've talked to some people that when they lose a job, it's because they failed. Well, no, because it was somebody else's decision, because we're not controlling our own agenda. And so therefore we are subject to somebody else's whim. How often do you find yourself at the whim of somebody else's agenda or their direction, and you have no control over it other than to carry out their orders? What are you going to do with that F? How are you going to recover? Fs are okay. Just don't stay there too long. Learn and continue to move forward. It's been said about Edison, it's kind of taken out of context in 10,000 ways to not to make a light bulb. Well, that's a success in itself. But he learned many different ways of what things to do. And, some of it he was learning because somebody else had already done something similar. So he was taking some of that knowledge. But what is it in our day? There's somebody else that has had a problem too, similar to ours. Maybe you want to talk to them. Maybe you want to find out how they approached it and take a look and say, does that work for me? Will that help me move forward? Thank you for everyone coming on today. And please say hi, leave a comment. I hope you're taking something away from this, that if we're asking the right question like this, what is your failure or apparent failure that has led to later for you to have success? What later in life did it lead to success? Or, I've had many. I've had a point in my life 5 years ago where I thought I failed. Well, I failed because I didn't take time to invest in myself. I stopped investing because I poured myself into the work, because I thought work was going to, I just needed to get through this and persevere, but I forgot about myself, and I forgot to keep grooming myself and handling stuff from a leadership point of view, because I was so caught up in the process, so caught up in building something that was not really getting support from the organization as a whole. But I needed to do it because I was charged with it. So when you find yourself at that point where you're seeing yourself degrade and be overwhelmed, what are you doing to move forward, to get out of that overwhelmed, to step back, take a pause, and then apply how you get out of things, or how do you achieve success in the next point? Good things to consider. Hope you do. Share this with others. Like it. Leave a comment. And let's just keep the conversation going. How would you deal with an F? What is your best secret sauce to move forward? Be well. Take care. Do good things. Keep in touch.